They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, at my college tech showcase, a single signature on a contract was worth $1.5 million. And the look on my parents' faces when they realized what they'd missed, I still have to laugh when I think about it. That was priceless. My name is Alexandra, Alex. And at 22 years old, I never thought my final project presentation would become the most epic, public, and deeply satisfying revenge of my life. To understand why their jaws hit the floor, you need to understand the lie they lived by, the one that almost broke me. Before I pull back the curtain on how I turned their biggest dismissal into my crowning achievement, do me a favor. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and hit that like button if you've ever had a passion that someone you love just didn't get. I grew up in Seattle, Washington, under the perpetual gray sky that perfectly matched the mood in our pristine, minimalist house. From the outside, we were the blueprint of success, a sleek, modern home with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a Japanese garden. My father, Richard, was a corporate attorney, a man who measured life in billable hours and prestigious club memberships. My mother, Caroline, was a professional socialite, her work consisting of chairing charity galas and ensuring our family name was always associated with the right people. We weren't just comfortable, we were wealthy, but the currency in our house wasn't money. It was potential, specifically the right kind of potential. And I, apparently, didn't have it. My brother Leo, 2 years younger than me, was the family's blue chip stock. With his easy charm, athletic build, and a straight path toward medical school, he was everything they understood and valued. He was the future Dr. Sterling, a title that made my father puff up his chest and my mother preen with pride at cocktail parties. He was their masterpiece. And me? Well, I was the weird, glitchy side project. From childhood, the difference was stark. Christmas meant a new top-of-the-line microscope for Leo and an art set for me. His birthdays were lavish affairs at the country club. Mine were quiet family dinners where I'd get a gift card to a bookstore. My father would always declare, his voice formal and dismissive, "Leo needs to be stimulated for his pre-med track." My mother would add, her voice always airy and with a hint of condescension, "Your brother's future is set, darling. Your hobbies are lovely, but they're not a career path." My hobby was building worlds, video games. It started with my great aunt Clara, a chain-smoking, no-nonsense retired programmer from the early days of Microsoft. She lived in a quirky, cluttered apartment in Capitol Hill, a vibrant digital cave filled with obsolete computers and circuit boards. While my parents sent Leo to science camps, I spent summers with Aunt Clara. She didn't just let me play games. She taught me how to break them and then how to build them. She taught me how to code. Her voice was always raspy and full of life. She'd point at a screen of green text and say, "Look at this, kid. This is logic. This is creation. Don't ever let anyone tell you it's not real just because they can't see the architecture." Those summers were my oxygen. In her apartment, I wasn't the artistic, unfocused daughter. I was a creator. I devoured books on narrative design, game theory, and programming languages. I started building small, simple games, a text-based adventure here, a clumsy platformer there. By high school, I knew this was what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a game developer. My parents were less than thrilled. When I won a statewide coding competition in my junior year, my computer science teacher, Mr. Davidson, personally called my father. He told him, "Richard, I've never seen a student with this level of innate talent for systems design. Alexandra is exceptional." I remember listening on the upstairs extension, my heart pounding with hope. My father's reply was polite, but so chillingly dismissive. His voice was cold, businesslike. "That's very kind of you to say. We're certainly proud of her extracurriculars. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to help Leo prep for his MCAT practice." By senior year, both Leo and I were applying to top-tier schools. He to Johns Hopkins for pre-med, me to the Pacific Cascade Institute of Technology, PCIT, one of the best tech and design schools in the country. We both got in. Leo's acceptance to Johns Hopkins prompted a 3-day celebration. There was a catered party, a new car, and endless toast to the future of the Sterling family. My acceptance to PCIT a week later earned me a brief, distracted, "Oh, that's wonderful, honey," from my mother before she went back to browsing vacation homes. The real blow, the core wound that would define the next 4 years of my life, came during a brutally formal family dinner. My father announced in his grand, authoritative voice, "We need to finalize the college financial plans." His gaze was fixed entirely on Leo. "Leo, your tuition, housing, and expenses for Johns Hopkins will be fully covered. We've set up a trust. You are not to worry about a single dollar. Your only job is to study." Leo beamed, that easy golden boy smile. I waited, my stomach twisting into a knot, for my turn. It never came. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. "And PCIT?" I finally managed to ask, my voice so quiet I could barely hear myself. My parents exchanged that look, the one that silently communicated, "You handle this." My father cleared his throat. His voice was cold, formal. "Alex, we review the tuition for your program. It's substantial, and frankly, we don't see it as a wise use of family resources." My mind just wouldn't process the words. My own voice sounded desperate. A wise use of what? It's one of the best tech schools in the world. It's my future. My mother's voice was dripping with a kind of fake sympathy. "Darling, a future in what? Making children's games? It's a phase, a hobby. It's not a serious career path like medicine. Leo's education is a guaranteed return." Then came the words, the ones that seared themselves into my soul. His voice wasn't cruel. It was worse. It was impartial, like a banker assessing a bad loan. He spoke slowly, and each word landed like a hammer blow. He spoke slowly, and each word landed like a hammer blow. "His future is an investment, Alex. Yours is a gamble. We're not willing to take a gamble." 17 years of being the second choice, the afterthought, the hobbyist, it all coalesced into that one brutal word. In their eyes, I wasn't just less important than my brother. I was a liability, a bad bet. In that moment, something inside me didn't just snap. It fractured, and from those cracks, something cold, hard, and utterly determined began to grow. That night, I didn't cry. Crying felt like a luxury, an admission of defeat. Instead, I went to Aunt Clara's. I laid out the whole ugly story. She listened, took a long drag from her cigarette, and blew a smoke ring. Her voice was raspy and full of life. She'd point at a screen of green text and say, "Look at this kid. This is logic. This is creation. Don't ever let anyone tell you it's not real just because they can't see the architecture." Those summers were my oxygen. In her apartment, I wasn't the artistic, unfocused daughter. I was a creator. I devoured books on narrative design, game theory, and programming languages. I started building small, simple games, a text-based adventure here, a clumsy platformer there. By high school, I knew this was what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a game developer. My parents were less than thrilled. When I won a statewide coding competition in my junior year, my computer science teacher, Mr. Davidson, personally called my father. He told him, "Richard, I've never seen a student with this level of innate talent for systems design. Alexandra is exceptional." I remember listening on the upstairs extension, my heart pounding with hope. My father's reply was polite, but so chillingly dismissive. His voice was cold, businesslike. "That's very kind of you to say. We're certainly proud of her extracurriculars. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to help Leo prep for his MCAT practice." By senior year, both Leo and I were applying to top-tier schools. He to Johns Hopkins for pre-med, me to the Pacific Cascade Institute of Technology, PCIT, one of the best tech and design schools in the country. We both got in. Leo's acceptance to Johns Hopkins prompted a 3-day celebration. There was a catered party, a new car, an endless toast to the future of the Sterling family.
My acceptance to PCIT a week later earned me a brief, distracted, "Oh, that's wonderful, honey," from my mother before she went back to browsing vacation homes. The real blow, the core wound that would define the next 4 years of my life, came during a brutally formal family dinner in late April. My father announced in his grand, authoritative voice, "We need to finalize the college financial plans." His gaze was fixed entirely on Leo. "Leo, your tuition, housing, and expenses for Johns Hopkins will be fully covered. We've set up a trust. You are not to worry about a single dollar. Your only job is to study." Leo beamed that easy, golden boy smile. I waited, my stomach twisting into a knot, for my turn. It never came. The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. "And PCIT?" I finally managed to ask, my voice so quiet I could barely hear it myself. My parents exchanged that look, the one that silently communicated, "You handle this." My father cleared his throat. His voice was cold, formal. "Alex, we've reviewed the tuition for your program. It's substantial, and frankly, we don't see it as a wise use of family resources." My mind just wouldn't process the words. My own voice sounded desperate. "A wise use? It's one of the best tech schools in the world. It's my future." My mother's voice was dripping with a kind of fake sympathy. "Darling," she said, "a future in what? Making children's games? It's a phase, a hobby. It's not a serious career path like medicine. Leo's education is a guaranteed return." Then came the words, the ones that seared themselves into my soul. His voice wasn't cruel. It was worse. It was impartial, like a banker assessing a bad loan. He spoke slowly, and each word landed like a hammer blow. "His future is an investment, Alex. Yours is a gamble we're not willing to take." A gamble. 17 years of being the second choice, the afterthought, the hobbyist. It all coalesced into that one brutal word. In their eyes, I wasn't just less important than my brother. I was a liability, a bad bet. In that moment, something inside me didn't just snap, it fractured. And from those cracks, something cold, hard, and utterly determined began to grow. That night, I didn't cry. Crying felt like a luxury, an admission of defeat. Instead, I went to Aunt Clara's. I laid out the whole ugly story. She listened, took a long drag from her cigarette, and blew a smoke ring. Her voice was a low growl. "So, the lawyers and socialites have decided they know better than the market, huh? Good, let them. There is no fuel more powerful than being underestimated by people who think they're smarter than you." My voice was shaking with panic. "They won't pay a dime, Clara. PCIT costs over $50,000 a year. There's no way." Her voice was fierce. "There's always a way," she said. "I can't cover it all, kid, but I can co-sign. The rest, you're gonna have to bleed for it, but you'll do it." And she was right. Oh, I bled. The next 4 years were a relentless and grueling marathon. While Leah was living in a fully furnished apartment, bankrolled by my parents, I was in a damp, shared basement apartment, a 45-minute bus ride from PCIT. My roommates were strangers. The air smelled perpetually of mildew and instant noodles. My life was a masterclass in brutal efficiency. My day started at 5 a.m. with freelance QA testing, playing buggy pre-release indie games and logging errors for overseas developers. It was mind-numbing work for pennies, but it was money. Then the bus to campus for a full course load. Between classes, I'd cram in homework at the library. After classes, it was straight to my part-time job doing tech support at the university's IT help desk. I wouldn't get home until 11 p.m., where I'd force myself to work on my own game design projects for 2 more hours before passing out. Sleep was a myth. A social life was a fantasy. My diet consisted of ramen, coffee, and the occasional free pizza from a campus event. The financial stress was a constant physical weight. I had a spreadsheet that tracked every single cent, and the numbers were always red. The contrast with Leo's life was a constant slap in the face. His Instagram was a highlight reel of parties, ski trips, and summers spent doing medical volunteering in exotic locales, all funded by mom and dad. They called him every single day. I got a text on my birthday. But in the crucible of that struggle, something incredible happened. My classes weren't just theoretical, they were my lifeline.
In my game economy class, while other students were designing hypothetical microtransactions, I was building a real-life budget that was 1,000 times more complex. In my project management class, I wasn't just learning about resource allocation, I was living it, scheduling every minute of my day to avoid collapse. And I was good. Really good. My struggle gave me an edge. I understood systems, constraints, and efficiency in a way my peers, funded by their parents, never could. My first breakthrough came in my second year, in Dr. Aris Thorne's Game Design 2 class. Dr. Thorne was a legend in the department, a former indie developer who'd had one massive hit and then retired to teach. He was sharp, brutally honest, and he didn't suffer fools. The final project was to create a simple, elegant puzzle game. While my classmates made flashy but shallow clones of popular games, I poured all my frustration and exhaustion into my project. I created Chroma Shift, a minimalist puzzle game where players had to manipulate shifting color palettes to navigate a maze. It was simple, deceptively difficult, and deeply personal. The game's aesthetic was born from the gray Seattle sky, and its mechanics were a metaphor for my own life, finding a path forward within crushing limitations. I got an A+, but it was Dr. Thorne's comment that mattered. He called me to his office. His voice was sharp, professional. Sterling, this is more than a student project. The core loop is addictive. The design is clean. It's commercially viable. I took a deep breath. For the first time in 2 years, someone in a position of authority saw my work not as a hobby, but as a product, as a real thing of value. It was during that same semester that I met Sam. Sam was my partner for a group project, a brilliant but chaotic artist who could create breathtaking character concepts, but couldn't code to save her life. She saw me pulling all-nighters, saw the exhaustion in my eyes. Her voice was blunt, but friendly. "Dude," she said one night at the library, "you look like a ghost. What's your deal?" I, expecting judgment, told her everything about my parents, my brother, the jobs, the loans. She just stared at me for a moment, then let out a low whistle. "Wow, your parents are something else." She looked at her own pristine laptop, a gift from her folks. "Okay, new plan. We're not just project partners anymore. We're a team. You handle the logic, I'll handle the art. We're gonna get you through this." Sam became my chosen family. She dragged me out for food, forced me to take breaks, and become the lead artist for all my personal projects. She was the one who convinced me to polish Chroma Shift and submit it to a small indie game festival. We didn't win, but a scout from a small indie publisher, Pixel Arcade, saw it. They offered me a small publishing deal, a tiny advance, just $5,000, and a 30% royalty share. I laughed, a real joyful laugh. That $5,000 felt like $1 million. It was the first money I'd ever earned from my creation. I paid off my most predatory private loan and took Sam and Aunt Clara out for a steak dinner. That small victory was the first crack of light in a long, dark tunnel. I didn't know it then, but I wasn't just building games. I was building a case. I was forging the weapons I would need for a final confrontation I never saw coming. Junior year was the pivot. The income from Chroma Shift was a slow trickle, but it was enough. Enough to quit the soul-crushing QA testing job. Enough to afford better groceries. Enough to breathe. I kept my IT help desk job for the stability, but my nights were now my own, dedicated to building my next project. Sam and I decided to formalize our partnership. We created a small LLC called Phoenix Engine Studios, a nod to rising from the ashes of my old life. We started working on our next game, a more ambitious narrative adventure. My academic reputation grew. I wasn't just the quiet, tired girl in the back anymore. I was the student who had actually published a game, the one whose insights in class were backed by real-world experience. Dr. Thorne became my official mentor, guiding my projects and connecting me with industry contacts. It was around this time that the unthinkable happened. I got a frantic call from Leo. His pre-med program required a complex senior thesis involving data visualization. He was a biology whiz, but he was completely lost when it came to the complex coding required to model the data. He was on the verge of failing. He sounded desperate, stammering. "Alex, I need help. I heard you're good at this stuff." A part of me, the bitter, wounded part, wanted to laugh. I wanted to say, "Sorry, my hobby can't help you with your investment." But looking back, I think I recognized the opportunity, not for revenge, not yet, but for a shift in power. My voice was calm and controlled. "Come over," I said. "Bring your data." For the next month, I spent my rare free evenings tutoring my brother. As I walked him through the logic of Python scripting, I saw the dawning realization in his eyes. He saw the complexity, the elegance, the sheer intelligence required for what I did. He saw that it wasn't just a hobby. It was a discipline as rigorous as his own. One night, he finally asked the question, "How did you learn all this? Mom and Dad never got you tutors." I told him everything. The 60-hour weeks, the basement apartment, the loans, the constant grinding pressure. He looked at me, his face pale. He whispered, "I had no idea. They just said you wanted to be independent." My voice was flat, matter of fact. I didn't want to be, Leo. I was forced to be. There's a difference. That conversation changed everything between us. For the first time, he saw past the golden child narrative. He saw the staggering inequality that had defined our lives. He started calling me, not for help, but just to talk. He became, for the first time, my brother. Meanwhile, at PCIT, my star was rising. Dean Ishikawa, the head of the School of Design, called me to her office. Her voice was professional but warm. "Miss Sterling, your journey here has been remarkable. We have a tradition at PCIT, the Senior Showcase. It's a juried event where our top graduating students present their final projects to a panel of industry leaders. Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft, they all send their top talent scouts." She slid an application across the desk. "We want you to be the keynote student presenter of this year." My heart started pounding. The showcase, it was the ultimate honor, a chance to present my work, my studio, on the biggest possible stage. Then she added with a little smile, "There's one more thing. We know your family situation is unique,
We've made some special arrangements for your presentation. A little surprise. Think of it as the university's way of saying, we see you. I accepted immediately. I didn't know what the surprise was, but it didn't matter. This was it, the culmination of 4 years of fighting. I called my parents to tell them the news. The showcase was the same weekend as Leo's white coat ceremony rehearsal dinner at Johns Hopkins. My mother's voice was sweet but so dismissive. Oh, honey, that's lovely, but we've already booked non-refundable flights to Baltimore for Leo's celebration. You know how important that is. It's his future. I had to laugh, a cold, bitter laugh. My father added in a patronizing tone, "Don't worry, we'll be there for your actual graduation ceremony on Sunday. This showcase thing sounds more like a school play anyway. Break a leg." And that was it. My voice became ice cold. The last bit of hope I had for their approval finally died. In its place, a cold, diamond-hard resolve settled in my heart. They didn't want to come? Fine. I was going to make them wish they had. The day of the senior showcase was electric. The PCIT auditorium was packed with industry giants. My family's attendance was sparse. My parents were in Baltimore, but Aunt Clara was in the front row wearing a vintage Byte magazine t-shirt like it was a Gucci gown. And next to her, to my shock, was Leo. He'd skipped his own rehearsal dinner and flown all the way back to Seattle. He gave me a fierce hug. His voice was proud, excited. There's no way I'm missing this. I'm here to see the real investment pay off. My presentation was last. I walked on stage, my hands steady, my voice clear. I presented our new game, Ethel, a narrative adventure about a forgotten architect rebuilding a fallen city. I spoke about systems design, about narrative branching, about building worlds from scratch. I poured every ounce of my passion and expertise into that 20-minute talk. As I finished, the applause was warm and respectful. I smiled, thanked the audience, and turned to leave the stage. But Dean Ishikawa walked on stage. She said, "One moment, Miss Sterling. Before our judges deliberate, we have a small piece of university business to attend to. As many of you know, PCIT encourages our students to engage in entrepreneurial efforts." She looked at me with a glint in her eye. 2 years ago, Alex developed a small game called Chroma Shift for a class project. With the help of a small publisher, that game was released online. What Alex doesn't know, because we intercepted her royalty reports for this occasion, is exactly how well that small game has been doing. 2 students walked out carrying one of those giant novelty checks. My hands flew to my mouth. I gasped. Written on the check payable to Alexandra Sterling was the amount of $247,583.14. The auditorium erupted. People were on their feet. I stared at the check, my mind reeling. It was more money than all my student loans combined. It was freedom. But the dean wasn't done. "An incredible achievement," she said over the applause. "A testament to her talent. But it seems her work has attracted more than just customers. We have another special guest tonight. A legend in the industry and a personal hero to many of us here. Please welcome the founder and chief creative officer of Oracle Games, Mr. Kenji Tanaka." I couldn't breathe. A sharp intake of breath. Kenji Tanaka was the god of game design, a true icon. He walked into the stage, a distinguished, smiling man in an impeccably tailored suit, and shook my hand. His voice was quiet, but held immense authority. "Alexandra-san, I played Chroma Shift. Its elegance is remarkable, and what I have seen of Ethel tonight is visionary." He turned to the audience. "My studio, Oracle Games, has been looking to invest in new, bold talent. A team that understands that emotion is the most important mechanic of all." He looked back at me. "Therefore, tonight, Oracle Games is making 2 announcements. First, we are extending an offer to Alexandra Sterling for the position of lead designer, effective immediately. The room exploded again. It was a dream job, the kind of job you worked 20 years to get. He held up a hand for silence, letting the drama build. And second, we are not just offering her a job. We are offering to acquire her studio, Phoenix Engine Studios, to lead our new indie development wing. The acquisition price, he looked directly at me, is $1.5 million. $1.5 million. My voice was a whisper of disbelief. The sound in the auditorium became a physical force. Aunt Clara was screaming, tears streaming down her face. Leo was jumping up and down, hugging her. Sam, who was in the audience, was sobbing uncontrollably. I just stood there, frozen, the world tilting on its axis. And that's when I saw them. Standing in the back of the auditorium, having clearly just arrived from the airport, were my parents. They must have caught an earlier flight. They were staring at the stage, their faces utterly white with shock. They hadn't just missed the school play. They had missed the coronation. They had arrived just in time to see the gamble they refused to make pay out a fortune they couldn't comprehend. As Kenji Tanaka handed me a pen to sign a ceremonial letter of intent, my father's cell phone rang, a loud, obnoxious ringtone that cut through the noise. He fumbled to answer it. I saw him mouth the words, she, before his face crumbled in a mask of pure, unadulterated regret. The public humiliation was absolute. Not because I shamed them, but because my success, laid bare for the entire world to see, had so thoroughly and completely invalidated their life philosophy. Their judgment was not just flawed, it was a catastrophic failure. Later, at the reception, my parents tried to approach me. My father stammered, his usual confidence shattered. "Alex, we had no idea." My mother's voice cracked. "We are so proud." I looked at them, the two people whose approval I had once craved more than anything, and I felt nothing. Just a vast, quiet emptiness where the pain used to be. An old family friend, a judge who was on one of my father's boards, came up and slapped my father on the back. "Richard, you old dog, you kept this genius daughter of yours a secret, investing in the arts after all, eh?" My father didn't answer. He just stared at me, and I saw in his eyes the devastating realization of what he had thrown away. I turned to him. My voice was calm and steady. I said, "I'm sorry." For a moment, hope flickered in their eyes. Then I continued, each word precise and cold. "I'm sorry. You seem to have me confused with an investment. I was the gamble, remember?" I turned away and walked towards Aunt Clara, Leo, and Sam, who were holding a bottle of champagne. My real family. The resolution wasn't about forgiveness, not right away. It was about realignment. I accepted the job and the acquisition. I paid off every single one of mine and Aunt Clara's loans in one lump sum. I bought her a new top-of-the-line computer setup and a lifetime supply of her favorite cigarettes. The first major project I greenlit with my new resources was a scholarship administered by PCIT. We called it the Phoenix Engine Scholarship for independent developers. Its purpose was to fully fund students with immense creative talent, but no family financial support. My parents and I began a long, awkward process of rebuilding. It wasn't about them apologizing for the money. It was about them acknowledging the wound, the belief that I was worth less. That process is ongoing.
But the real victory wasn't the money or the job. It was standing on that stage, realizing my worth was never up for their debate. It was a fact.
They hadn't failed to invest in me. They had failed to see me. Their lack of vision was their limitation, not mine. Being underestimated was the greatest gift they ever gave me. It forced me to build my own foundation, to code my own engine, to design my own world. A world they are now, for the first time, asking for permission to enter. So what about you? Have you ever had a dream that was dismissed as a gamble, a passion that was called a hobby? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one. And if this story resonated with you, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of sweet, sweet karmic justice. Remember, the best revenge isn't getting even. It's getting so far ahead that you can't even see them in your rearview mirror anymore. Thanks for listening.